It's a huge joy for me to see all of your faces and to be able to celebrate this Mass for you after 12 years of formation and a lot of adventures on the way. So thank you for being here and I guess bringing it to fulfillment in a certain way and also kicking off the adventure in another way. The normal colors would be green, but I'm wearing white because this is the chasuble that I wore at my first Mass in Rome. So I'm trying to bring a little piece of Rome to Kansas here. And the other little bonus I'm bringing from Rome is I asked the Vatican for a special plenary indulgence. So everybody here, if you receive communion, confession, pray for the Pope, and reject sin in your life, then you can either have your time in purgatory, or someone who's passed away, a loved one there, it's like a get out of jail free pass. So you have one of those. So don't waste it. Think of somebody and offer it up. It's a special bonus just to be here. So the big question I've been pondering these days and preparing for these words is looking at the analogy or the parable of the Samaritan, because all these, it's a great buzzword, Samaritan, be a good Samaritan. But I think the real core question and the whole story, and it weaves through my life as well, is am I lovable? Like, can I be loved? Am I lovable? And the flip side as well is, am I able to let myself be loved? Because we can create more obstacles than for anybody, even God, to be able to love us. And so that's a reality that if we don't get into that lovability, then everything else is got kind of circumstance, like, why am I suffering this, or why did it happen to me? So the story of the Good Samaritan begins with this man, right? This person going down toward the sin of Jericho. Jericho was not a virtuous place. And so he was looking, in one sense, he must have given up on happiness where he was, and he was looking for a quick fix and a cheap imitation of the deep vastness of the desires that our hearts can only be satisfied in an infinite love. So he's looking for those little gimmicks going down to Jericho. And on the way, these robbers, they beat him up and they prevent him from getting all the way to Jericho. And it's interesting that it's at the point, I call it the rock bottom principle. Like when we hit the rock bottom, we realize we can't dig any deeper, that we have to look up. We have to see, hey, there must be something bigger than all this. And so it took this guy who was totally beat up, left for dead, no clothes, no anything. And it was in that moment that he was vulnerable enough to be helped by an enemy, right? The Samaritans were not good buddies with the Jewish people. And so we can tie that in a way to God, that God can seem like an enemy. And maybe it's our own past or different circumstances. Maybe it's something we've suffered, maybe a loved one who's passed away, some abuse, some suffering, something that we can't forgive others or, to forgive ourselves. So there's a lot of things that can be those robbers along the way. And so many things can destroy that relationship. So that's what we're called to have that moment and that opportunity to look toward someone to help us. So it's when this guy is down and out that he's able to accept love. And another interesting part about the Samaritan is that he doesn't just pick him up, carry him along, fix him up himself. He entrusts him to another. He uses an instrument and others so that he doesn't impose. I heard a great phrase from Pope Benedict. He said, God doesn't impose, he always proposes. So he doesn't want to get in our face and rub it in. Hey, what were you doing going down to Jericho? What were you up to? He doesn't impose himself on us. And so the question in our own lives is, who are those people, those instruments that have helped to pick us up and to be that face of God for us when things are tough? And so that's the challenge, to be able to let ourselves be loved, to not accept the lie that we're not worth it, that we're not lovable, or that God gave up on us or forgot about us. So that's when we have to get rid of those little securities, the things that try to, okay, maybe I'm not lovable, but I'm going to at least have these little tiny hopes. And that's not what we're made for. So that's when I look back and I look at each of you helping me to be who I am today, I think about all those little messengers, all those instruments of God's love to be able to help to see his face and also to know who I am and help me to be who I am. So in this moment, during this Mass, we can pray about maybe identify more with the robber. Maybe I've been, hurting others. Or maybe I could be one of those passerbys. One of the passerbys walking along and rubbernecking at the suffering of others. Maybe I could be one of those. Or maybe I'm that guy there that is just beat up and kind of lost and looking for a cheap fix, an imitation happiness. Or maybe I'm being challenged to go out and to reach out to someone who wouldn't on face value be lovable or be someone that I'm attracted to help out, maybe with all that bad blood in the past. So to see which character might I be in that story, it's pretty powerful to be able to get into those moments. So really that feels like the mission that I've been given now as a priest. I keep thinking of it like a giant hot potato, that if I hold on to it, I'll get burned because it's too much for myself. So I got to just try to pass it around and share it as much as possible, and not to, and also to be creative. And certain people pass it in certain ways. So that's what really the priesthood feels like, a giant gift in that way. That's not for myself; it's for others, and that's what I hope to share. And this mission that I've received, this huge opportunity to be able to keep sharing these graces, and so I ask for your prayers that I can be faithful unto death, and as well that we all pray for each other, that we can either accept God's love, realize we're lovable, and also be willing to be that instrument to be able to show his face to all those who are walking wounded, who are suffering in our lives that we pass on our way to eternity.